Enginn kynnir Forever Alone Filmmaking podcast að því að öllum alveg drullu sama ef þið búið til myndirnar ykkar eða ekki. Þess vegna verðið bara að fara og gera það sjálf. Kynnirnir ykkar eru hommin M. Strange, fábjáninn Jimmy Screamerclaws og algjöri hálfvitinn James Ead. Tonight's special guest is veteran film and theater actor Ricky Grove. Check out his Internet Movie Database page in the links to see all the cool shit Ricky is all up in every day, all day. Pimp.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Forever Alone Filmmaking podcast. I'm Uber-Rector M. Strange, and as always I'm joined here by
Jimmy Screamerclaws
and James Ed.
And tonight we have a super special guest who again is not on right now. He's in the green room that exists somewhere in the interstitial nature place between life and death and internet and off, not on internet.
He's in the green room turning green.
Yeah, but I'm really excited to have our guest Ricky Grove on the show, who's a really accomplished and awesome actor, both in theater and in films and TV and stuff. And I think it's a real treat to have him on here because, you know, a lot of us are talking about voice actors and actors, and we do all this stuff in computers and polygons and all these things, and we forget about, like, you know, we're trying to create stories and emotions and real people, and it's the actors that are going to create those people for us. I mean, as great as we can think we write lines and this and that, these are the people who are bridging the gap between our ideas and the audience. So I'm really interested in hearing from Ricky about acting and, you know, how to work with actors and things like that. So I'm happy to have Ricky Grove on the show, probably right now.
Hello there. My name's Ricky Grove. I'm an actor.
So how long have you been doing acting, Ricky?
Well, I started acting, I probably started acting when I was a little baby and a little kid, because, you know, I think the real instinct for acting, everybody has a kind of instinct for acting when they're a kid. Because, you know, you sort of make believe as if something is so, and then you pretend that it is. So I just never stopped doing that, you know. A lot of people, as they get older, they're told, hey, no, you're not supposed to do that. Well, I never did. I just kept doing it. And it was so much fun because my home life wasn't particularly good, and so I had to entertain myself a lot. So I had a very rich imaginary world. And that just led to, you know, one thing led to another, and then I met somebody, and then somebody said, hey, you ought to be in this play, and then I got in the play, and I had a very good singing voice when I was young, so I started out doing theater, musicals primarily, and I enjoyed that, and I remember a very specific experience about my second musical, which was The Unsinkable Molly Brown. And I remember being on stage, and I must have been about 16, and I was singing, and this thought just hit me like, I feel so great. This is where I should be. This is what I should do. And I stuck with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
So that's when the bug bit you or whatever, got you?
Yeah, it was like, this is right. This is the thing that I do, you know? And so I've been doing variations of it, both professional and amateur, ever since.
Yeah, like what are some of the stuff that, you know, people probably have seen you in? Like I'm a big fan of like Army of Darkness, and then when I was like, oh shit, Ricky was Eric the Red. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
so I remember that.
I did. Army of Darkness is probably the best known thing, although I did a lot of other work. I did the first season of Outer Limits, the remake.
Oh, awesome.
I did a really interesting episode that you might find interesting of Erie, Indiana, which was short, sort of David Lynchy type thing, and I got to play this sort of Stanley Kowalski kind of jerk dad, and then he takes some sort of potion and stuff, and he's able to change everybody. So he changes his dad into a kind of Cary Grant figure. So I got to go from like Stanley Kowalski to Cary Grant. And that was the first time I worked extensively on green screen too, which was quite a bit of fun.
Did you like that, or green screen? Or?
I loved it. It was a very, very interesting process. I also got a chance to do quite a bit of what I call foam latex acting. I got to be on, Babylon 5, I was on an episode of that, which I got to meet my teen idol when I was a kid. A little boy idol was Billy Mooney, who did Lost in Space.
Oh, yeah.
Just loved him as an actor, and I got to have lunch with him and tell him how important his acting was to me. And then did Space Rangers, I think it was. And that was, I'd get to work at 4 to have the makeup applied to start working at about noon.
Oh, that's why you call it foam latex acting, because you had to put a bunch of makeup on?
Yes, that's right. It was huge. And I discovered quite a few interesting things about that kind of acting that gave me a lot of respect for people who had to go through that process.
How did you feel about green screen acting? Because I've heard a lot of actors say that they don't like it, and it's really hard to get a sense of where they are. And
Well, to answer that question, I have to tell you a little bit about how my sense of what's important in acting changed. I think a lot of times acting, at least ideas about acting and talking about acting, is sort of stuck in the 50s. It's stuck in this sort of, I have to feel every feeling that my character is feeling kind of thing. And I started that way, but very quickly I learned that not every story demands that kind of acting. So I learned a lot of craft in acting. Technical craft, because you're in such amazingly strange situations with cameras and people, and you have to learn how to be able to concentrate and get the character's story across, even while you're in these bizarre situations. So for me, when I got to green screen, it was a treat, because I had already focused on being proud of being able to use my craft to get stuff done. And that's really all it took. I didn't get upset because I couldn't get into the part or express my emotions or something like that. I didn't do any of that.
But that must have made you a rarity, though, right? Because if all the other actors, needed this other stuff, then
I don't think I'm a rarity. I just think that the prevailing notion of acting is way behind other forms of expression. And I just think there are people that are tuned to it and people that are not, because they don't take the time to figure it out for themselves.
But does it give you less juice? Does it give you more juice if you're on a real set versus a green screen?
No, not at all, because it's really about the other people that you're playing with. I remember a very specific experience I had. I did a movie of the week in about '98 called Not of This World, and I was cast as this kind of hunter guy who went out into the woods and was hunting something, and this alien shows up and he sort of stalks it, and then he ends up getting killed by it. And so they took us out to Thousand Oaks, and I worked really hard on this part. I liked it because there were a couple actors in the company that I really liked, and I got to work with them. And so they do the sort of master shot in which I, come up and this light comes around, and then all of a sudden I have to look up and there's the monster, and I've got to scream, and then it kills me. So we did the master shot and everything was fine. That was great. And then we got to the close-up that he was going to do of me. And so I'm really working myself up to get the feeling, of sheer terror. So I was, crying, and I was all upset, and they called me onto the spot. I got set. I looked up, and there was this fly-specked light bulb. and I said, well, where's the monster? And they looked at me like, are you crazy? This is it. You just act like this is the monster. We'll put in the monster with the special effects later. And I was so deeply disappointed.
Oh, that they weren't in it.
Yeah. And I realized, well, that's just crazy. Why? That's not how it works. So by that time, all that juice that you were talking about was gone. And I realized that I have to do something here. And so I realized, well, I'm just going to pretend like that thing is the monster. So I did a couple takes, and the guy, I said, how'd it go? And he says, great. It was just great. So when I finally saw the film, I was thinking, nah, it's not going to be very good, because I really wasn't into it. When I watched it, it was perfect. It was just fine. And I wasn't out of it, so to speak. I just was pretending like a child would pretend that something is a big monster, like the tree outside your window or that dog is a huge, prehistoric monster is chasing you. You just pretend that as if that's what it is, and then you react that way. And I was realizing that it taught me that acting is not about great emotional feelings. Acting is about telling the story of your character, considering the type of story it is. So if you're in a realistic story, you have to be realistic. If you're in a very stylized story, you're stylized. It all depends upon the story, not on your acting. Not paying attention to your expressing your feelings. At least that's what I've come to think in the last decade or so.
So that thing, like you were saying about that director where, they said, what do you mean, there's no monster? So maybe it took away from maybe your inspiration or whatever was going on. So what are some things that directors can do or people that you've worked with that have kept that alive? You know what I'm saying? If there's some directors out there, what do they need to do for their actors to give them what they need?
The primary thing is to understand actor psychology, which is not an easy thing to do. I think the great majority of actors are not necessarily immature, but they need reassurance. Let me give you an example. Who the hell was it? I was just reading recently. It was a director. Oh, it was David Lynch directing. I can't think.
Is that his new movie?
No. It was David Lynch. David Lynch directing. It was Elephant Man, and John Gielgud was in the film. Mm-hmm. Well, it was his first big professional job. He had done this very independent thing before, and this was a $20 million movie. He was working with John Gielgud, who was considered the greatest actor on the planet. So they did the scenes and everything, and about 2 weeks later, he got a letter from Gielgud, and the letter said, I just want to thank you for having me in your movie. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I just hoped I had done a good job for you. I'm not sure I did what you wanted me to do. And Lynch said he couldn't believe it. Here was a guy who was so far above him as an actor, and he's worried about my reinforcement of his work. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So the point I'm trying to make is that actors crave reinforcement. They crave attention. So the thing you have to balance, I think, as a director is how much time you spend with an actor, with them on a particular scene and reinforcing their work, and how much you spend working with other actors and also the details of production. It's a kind of balancing act, a tango act, at least in a large professional world. Perhaps in a smaller world like you and me, like when you and I worked together on Heartstring Marionette, I wasn't sure when I went up there the style of directing you would have because I hadn't worked with you. I knew your films were going to be good, and I knew I really wanted to please you as an actor. So I tried to pay a lot of attention to the tones of your voice so that when I did something and the tone of your voice was enthusiastic, I told myself, that's the direction I have to go in. So it's a kind of paying attention, I think, is what I'm talking about.
This is an idea I've always had whenever I work with actors. Like, I have to know more. I have to know a lot more and go a lot further into the world and everything about the world that hasn't been created yet than they have, to give them kind of that confidence that, hey, I'm with you. I've made the map. If you follow my plan, we will go there. Because I'm just guessing, like, if you started working with the director and you got into something about a character or the story and they were like, yeah, like they never thought about that, would that make you kind of, question them and where they're going?
It would. It would. In fact, I've been in productions where I knew more about the play and the story than the director did, and you just have to work at not being a jerk, because your job is to play that particular character, and the person who's in charge is the director. Like for example, I did a film called Extreme Justice, which was a great script about these rogue LAPD cops. Well, the director, it was his first big film. He had been doing television stuff beforehand. So I started doing all this work, and he was working with a pretty heavy crew. I mean, it was Yaphet Kotto and a couple other heavy hitters in it. And he he didn't know what the hell to do. He didn't know what to say. He just, somebody would do a fantastic job and he'd go, oh, that's great. Or he wouldn't say anything. So nobody knew. Well, I discovered that the person who was really directing the film was the cameraman, the cinematographer, which is not unusual. So as soon as I realized that, I'd just go to the cinematographer and I'd say, what do you think? And he says, that was really good. You did a good job, but I think you got to slow down, or you got to. Mostly it was technical directions. Or I'd say, am I getting it right? And he'd say, yeah, just right. So I completely bypassed this passive and inefficient director and went to the DP. And sometimes that's how sets work out in the professional world, because the director didn't do his homework.
Yeah, and then let's say, most of the people, probably all the people listening to this, will be independent filmmakers, doing their own independent projects. So you're saying like they need to have their homework done once you bring the actor in. They need to do their homework. Because, I was surprised when we worked together, you brought these things out of the character and were asking me questions about the character that I had deep somewhere in there, but I was like, whoa, I didn't think anyone would ever ask me these questions about this character. So it forced me to step up my game and I've done the homework, but I never expected you to. But I was glad that I had it, because if you caught me my pants down at that point, then I'd be like, whoa. So I guess directors or filmmakers out there, do your homework and really know the character that you're trying to direct someone about, right? And the story.
Yeah. I think one of the things you have to know about the character is, what does the character want? What is the character trying to do in the story? Because if you don't know that, you're going to have a hard time convincing an actor when you're directing them that what you're saying fits in with the story, because in a way, the actor is the specialist on his character, whereas the director is the specialist on the story, and he knows how the characters fit into the story. See, that's what I was looking at with you, in collaborating with you, is I wanted to make sure that my performance fit in with the other actors and that it fit right for the kind of story you were telling, because I didn't know the visual background of the character like you did. Yeah. I mean, you created it. You're living with it. So I knew you would know whether trying something would be appropriate or inappropriate. So I think what's important is, in the indie sense of it, is that you learn how to collaborate with each other, give and take. But you have to do your homework first. I did my homework on the character. You did your homework on the character in terms of the story.
Yeah, so what are some things, because I think just coming from myself, sometimes we think we have a script, here's the script, here's everything you need to know from the script, but clearly there's things actors need beyond the script. So what are some of those things they need from a director to, beyond what's on a screenplay?
Well, that also calls into question what we think good acting is. The important thing is that you know what your story is, and that if an actor's acting fits into the world of that story, because realism is just a style. It's just a style. Unfortunately, it's been a style that's been accepted as the status quo in the U.S. primarily. So when you have a film like Heartstring Marionette and you're playing a character who's being manipulated at the same time he's manipulating somebody else, you have to understand that that's not realistic psychology, It's not something you can call upon your experience doing Tennessee Williams to help you out. It's new. It's original. If you're working as an artist, you have to make mistakes in order to be able to find the right thing to do. So I guess what I'm saying is that be prepared when you start working together. So when you collaborate, you give yourself permission to create something original that you may make a mistake. You may not get it on the first time, but if you make mistakes or if you try things out together and are not afraid that, one is better than the other, or not allowing your insecurities to get the best of you, then you're going to step out and you're going to come up with this new way of acting or this new way of expressing yourself in the character.
Yeah, because I've always thought, it's like everyone working on a film needs to let go of all their own bullshit and dedicate everything to the work. So
Absolutely.
It's not about what, if I feel good or you feel good or whoever, it's all about the film, the well-being of the film or the project. And I'm sure that doesn't happen sometimes, but I think that's what I've always thought needed to happen. And to make things work or to have things, be their best, because you want to have your freedom and, be able to, put your shine on it and do all that stuff too, right? I mean, how much?
Yeah.
So I guess, say, you've done a lot of acting for, a long time. And so if a director comes to you, what are you looking to do? Because, I mean, obviously you've done acting before and a bunch of different things, so it's not like you're just like, yeah, I'm acting, like that's exciting enough. There must be something else you want from it. So
I want the director to tell me, what the character does in the world. How does the character affect the story in the world, and how does the character affect the other characters? Because once I hear the director tell me that this guy does not want anybody to get the best of him, or this guy loves his son deeply, but he's not going to allow his son to go too far. He's going to contain him. He's got to control him. When you talk in verbs like that, when you talk in actions like that, those are things that good actors can understand, and they can do them. And it doesn't make a difference whether they do them with their body or they do them with their voice. They have something to hang their hat on. The mistake that some directors make is they talk in emotional terms. Because the thing is that people don't produce emotions. Well, maybe there's some people who can, but most people who don't. So what you do is you don't concentrate on the emotion. You concentrate on the reason and the action. And once you get that engaged, emotions will come from that, whatever they are.
Yeah, so I think something I'm thinking about is like, say, a lot of times, animators or directors, it's like, yeah, we did all this work, okay, whether we're doing it before or after, we have this voice work to be done. And then sometimes it's just like, okay, yeah, we just need these actors to come do these parts. And it's like this simple cut and dry thing or whatever, but obviously it's not. So, so what are those things, if someone's coming to you that you're going to do, say, a voice work for animation or even live action, that a director needs to bring to you to make you feel comfortable and make you feel like they've done everything they can for the work?
Confidence, the ability to make choices on the fly, and also the ability to collaborate together, so that if there's something that comes up that the director says that may not quite fit with the way you're looking at the character, you can discuss that, and the director may be inspired by that, but adjust it and say, maybe not that direction, but that makes me think that possibly if we combine these other two things, it might work in that direction. So a willingness to collaborate, a kind of confidence in knowing the story that they're going to tell, so that the actor can feel good about that their contribution is going to be acknowledged and it's going to work. Because every actor wants their character to work. They want their character to be effective. And the way to do that is you have to find out what the director needs, because the director knows the world of the story far better than the actor does. That's a big mistake that a lot of actors do, a lot of egotistical actors do. They think they make the mistake of thinking because they know about their character, they know about everything else. That's not the case.
Yeah, because I've always looked at it like it's this burning building that you can collapse on, you can die, and you don't know the layout of the place. So the director has to really know it because he's telling you to run in there. And if you're not that confident that this guy really knows the layout and where it's going, you're going to be like, I'm not going to jump in there. So maybe you won't give the crazy performance. But if you know exactly, well, shit, this guy has a blueprint. There's the window I get out of. Like everything's going to be okay. Like, all right, I'll go for it. So.
Precisely. You remember at the end of the very last line that my character has in Heartstring Marionette?
Yeah.
When we were trying to get that just the right quality in it, that sort of combination of pain but also a kind of release.
Yeah.
That he's finally gotten rid of it. Once we both understood what it is we were going for, it was just a matter of doing it until we got it done.
Yeah, there's that place you come to where it's just a little technicality, like those little things, but you have so let's say if we can just drop it down to, I mean, what are you trying to get when you're, let's say, doing voice acting? I mean, there's the technical part, just the timing and things like that, and then there's the story or the emotional part. Like, what are the parts that you try to nail all down when you're doing something like that?
Voice acting is a little bit different. I haven't had quite as much experience with that as I have with live acting, but I have done quite a bit. And I've discovered that you have to substitute your actual interaction with another character by working with the director to know what those other characters are going to be like, so you can imagine them, and taking your time when you work. When I first started doing voice acting, everything was much too fast. I went way too fast. And I was also trying to do every single line, every single word exactly the way it was written. And I was trying to be a good actor, do you know what I mean? Instead of being creative. And so once I started relaxing and slowing down and asking the director questions, I began to develop an imaginative world in my head. And when I started talking, I just closed my eyes and pretend. Again, it comes back to the what if.
Yeah.
What if I were this character in this situation in this world? What if I was speaking to this person? How would I do? What would I do? And then you take off like a jazz musician with the fingerings. You finally got the fingerings. Now you just blow.
Yeah. And talking about this acting stuff with you is awesome. We have to do a regular, like maybe a monthly segment or something where you talk about acting if you want.
I'm there, man.
Because that would be awesome. Because, I mean, it's especially doing computer animation, you don't have much human contact. And, like, for me, last show we were talking to Dave 4K who made Archon Defender, and same thing for him. And it's like, oh, yeah, the actors. And, and we tend to, I think, working with computers and this technical stuff, you tend to want to categorize them as this thing, like a render pass.
Yeah,
like, okay, bring in the acting. But, we have to remember, I try to all the time. I mean, it's hard to today because, I mean, in my opinion, most of the modern actors are not actors, they're just reactors. So you kind of lose faith in them, or I do, and I have to go back to, actors and older stuff, or kind of some of the classic people that could actually act. And you have to be like, you have to remember, no. These people bring their own life to the film,
That's
and
right.
you have to let them, so I guess...
You have to let them do that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was kind of getting at, and I think you answered that stuff. Like, what does a filmmaker need to do to let you do your thing and grow and, grow out of that part?
I think half of it's done in casting. Simply casting a specific individual in a role that's right for it works. I mean, you got more than half of your job done because their natural personality is going to kick in. One thing I've done a lot in Machinima in the last couple of years in terms of collaborating with people is that we've worked with a lot of people who aren't actors. They're non-actors. And the reason we do that is because they tend to adjust more quickly than actors do, because actors want to act. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes you don't want them to act with quotations. You just want them to talk. Like if it's a particularly realistic thing, you just want them to talk. And we found that in voice acting, sometimes you can get non-actors to respond more authentically than you can actors. Although it's still touch and go on that. I'm not convinced that isn't the case, but as an experiment, it's been working out really well because non-actors, as soon as you tell them, you give them a situation and they can imagine it, they're ready to go.
Oh, that's
awesome. And I like that. Yeah,
we're going to have to do a regular acting segment. That was a perfect segue, though, because the other thing we wanted to talk to you about was Machinima. Since you're the man on the street with Machinima, and, I don't know much about it. And Jimmy and James, do you guys know much about Machinima and Machinima scene?
No, I never heard of it.
Okay, so, hey, maybe
cool.
maybe there's people out there who never heard of it, Ricky, so you can tell us what it is and kind of where it's at right now.
Well, 3D, when you're doing 3D with a 3D package like Cinema 4D, you basically create all of your assets, right?
Yeah.
You create all your assets, you animate them, you create your story, you do it, then you render each frame out and then export it and then take it in an editor. Yeah. Well, what if you didn't have to create all of your assets? And what if you didn't have to render it, but it was rendered real time in your viewer? Where does that happen? That happens inside of a video game. So say, for example, you find a video game that you really think is cool and interesting. You like the characters, you like the world. And that game company says, oh, by the way, we've got the tools that we use to make the game. You can use these tools and you can make a movie by moving the camera around and getting your characters to do all this stuff. Well, that would cut your 3D production time down by, down to 10%. So instead of taking a year to do it, you could do it in 2 months.
It's like a digital backlot, right?
That's exactly right.
And all your actors are already, just go cast your actors, right?
Yeah,
they're already out there
right.
or they're sitting there.
That's right. The catch is you don't own that material. What you own is the story, the sounds, if they're your sounds. You own the dialogue, and that's it. So that's the downside to Machinima. Although that's not the case with software programs that are non-game based. Machinima grew out of the hacker community when somebody decided, when they were playing a multiplayer in Quake, somebody decided, well, hey, I can hack the camera, the point of view camera, and I can move the camera around, and somebody can play the camera, and then we'll all move around. And since we're talking in a multiplayer, I can just tell you guys where to go. Hey, you go over there, and then you come down here, and then you fire your guns, and then you jump, and then I'll be the camera, and then I'll film it. I'll record what's coming out of my video card.
So how old is Machinima? Like, how long have people been making films with it? Like, a lot of stuff.
About 15 years.
Oh, 15 years.
About 15, 16 years. It took off in popularity about 5 years ago when Machinima.com started producing all sorts of game-based Machinima and focusing it on the young men between 15 and 24.
Like that was that Red versus Blue, like that one. That's the one that I remember seeing.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah. However, Machinima has become transformed. Now there are specific software that's game-based, because in a game, everything is real-time. And all you do is you record what comes out of your video card like you're recording the scene, and then you cut that together.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get at you because, what I'm trying to do with Cinema 4D right now in my new short series, it's pretty much I'm trying to do Machinima. I'm using the same sets and characters. I'm using the hardware renderer, renders in real time. So I'm pretty much trying to replicate the Machinima pipeline. Because, if you just have an idea and you want to make a film or tell a story,
and you just want to do it.
It's like getting a digital camera.
6 months.
Yeah,
just go out and do it. Go out and do it.
And you have something to do with the Machinima Film Festival too, right?
We do. When I first started, I was looking for an alternative to theater, and there was a guy in Los Angeles who became... There was a Machinima forum. We got together and said, hey, you want to make a movie? Yeah. We got together. We liked each other. We worked, and we made a film. And I've been involved in it ever since, doing sound design and stuff. Well, about 5 years ago, I got together and we created a festival, a virtual festival that takes place online. And we had, 150 people around the world send their films. Cool. So we've been doing that, and then we had a 2-day festival. So then that's been going on. Last year we had almost 500 people send films from almost every place in the world, from Finland to Russia to Poland to Mexico to Canada. And out of those we picked about 40 films, of which maybe 10 were really top quality, and those went to the jury, and then we decided a grand jury prize. Now, our films are a little different because we're kind of using Machinima as an art form. So we look for films that are artistic as opposed to
something like a video game cinematic or something.
Exactly. Then, hey, look at this weird thing I do when I shoot my gun, my butt, it comes out of my butt kind of thing. Like that. That's fine. Hey, people do that, but Machinima.com's got that market covered. So we're looking for people who sort of want to create their own individual style, and there's originality involved in it.
What are some of the edgiest or coolest Machinima films out there you think people should check out? Just throw out some of the names of them.
There aren't a lot of edgy Machinima films in terms of
or just something
content.
You think is the best stuff or the most interesting stuff.
Well, this year there was in the jury films. There was several films that were made in Second Life. They were fantastic. One was called Fluid and Blue, which was great. Another guy made a film a couple of years ago called Beast, which was amazingly violent film done in Motion Builder, which is a game engine adept thing. Let's see what else was done. Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Another Second Life film. What the hell? I can't think of the name of it. What I'll do is I'll send you a list.
Yeah, we'll put them in the show notes if you...
You can put them in the show notes. But there's literally dozens and dozens of them every year. People are making, we had people from Mexico submit Machinima from... Do you remember that old game called The Movies?
Yeah. That was a Machinima game. Yeah, right? Yeah, The Movies.
Yeah. Well, apparently in Mexico, it is the way that people make animated films down there.
Really?
We had somebody who did a biopic of Fritz Lang. in the movies.
That's awesome.
And it was terrific. It was terrific. They're very expressionistic. They're very unusual. And because of sort of crude rendering, it gives us this weird kind of German expressionistic style to it.
Yeah, what happened to that game? Because I saw it, and it's like you run your own studio, and I thought it was awesome. I never got to try it, but I thought it was a great idea.
It is. It actually had a good life originally, but then the fellow Lionshead who put it together, they sort of abandoned it. But the mod community didn't. So the mod community took it over and literally took that game apart and put it back together. So now there are all of these free mod tools about how to take stuff from SketchUp and put it into the movies, how to change cameras, how to create a focal length for the camera, how to create new props, all kinds of stuff. So it's all free. And because the game has been abandoned, so to speak, there's no intellectual property rights to it.
So, like you said, one of the downsides of using the engines is that you can't own your film, right? If you're using the engine and the assets from the engine.
If you're using a game, you technically you can't sell it. You can't sell it. You can't make money off of it.
So I'm just thinking, like I'm trying to move Cinema 4D into becoming, a Machinima engine with me, because you can use the hardware renderer, which is not as advanced as like using a modern game engine, but it's kind of crude, but you can get away with it. And then I'm like making just basic male humans and females, and I'm pulling sets off 3D Warehouse and just modifying them. And I was thinking, if there was some idealized place that a Machinima filmmaker could go, like let's say a Machinima filmmaker using Cinema 4D. I know it's not a game engine, but if you wanted real-time rendering and assets, I'm thinking, there's motion clips. So if we shared free motion clips amongst each other, and we can grab these stock characters and these pre-built sets, would that help build a community, or is that how that stuff happens? Or?
That's kind of what we're going in the direction of with the Machinima Expo, which is the name of my festival. We're trying to bring a sense of community of people who are really taking their filmmaking seriously, I mean, they're having fun, but they want to do something original. They want to make a personal expression. It's one of the reasons why I admire your work and James and Jimmy Screamer Claw's work, is because you guys are not out there to just recreate what you see on TV or recreate some, boner-headed movie coming from Hollywood.
Yeah.
You want to create your feelings, your ideas. You want to express what you think of the world. But that's what they're doing in Machinima. And there are quite a few people that are having success, but there's no localized community for it anymore. It used to be machinima.com, but that got taken over by used car salesmen. So we don't have
nuts. So it's kind of like trying to recreate maybe an open source movie studio on the internet, right? So you can go to our lot, like, oh, you want to shoot in our graveyard? Here's the graveyard set. Go ahead. You can shoot in there for free. Here's the actors. These actors are all free of charge. Go ahead and use them, and
Blender is becoming a little bit of that community.
Oh, really?
But not enough people are using the game engine for real time. They're all doing the rendering.
But getting assets, is that still a challenge? Like getting assets that you can use?
No. Go to Google Warehouse. You can practically get anything you want.
Yeah, that's where I've been getting stuff. So.
Yeah. And it's all free, and it's all copyright free. You can do whatever you want with it.
So just from a general overview, like with looking at Machinima and the films you've seen so far, the people that tend to get into Machinima, what is their strong point in terms of filmmaking? Like, is it like the story, the character? Is it like the style? Like
we don't have enough real good storytellers. It tends to be a bit of a failing in a lot of Machinima. But what we do have is people who have great visual sense. And they make these films that are very interesting, and these worlds that are very interesting to look at. But they don't quite have the character and storytelling sense. There are some people who are the exception, but the majority of people are still working on it.
Okay, well, I mean, that's the hardest thing. I mean, that's something that I'm still working on. Of course, I'll still work on, and it's. I just thought, because I come into it from the technical. We talked about this in previous shows. You get so caught up into the technical things, that have to become part of the filmmaking process when you're using computers, that you forget the whole other side, and it's like, oh yeah, like that's why we make movies and that's why we want to watch them. And I just thought, like, my brain wants to categorize things, and I was like, well, maybe the Machinima people have the best stories, but the technical stuff holds them back. And
yeah, it's hard to do that. We do have a core group of filmmakers who are doing really interesting stuff, but for the most part, it's not particularly adventurous. I mean, one episode of your erotic series would just blow the minds of practically every Machinima maker. I mean, that would cause such a hue and a cry. Oh my God! What are you doing? It's just he's masturbating. I can't believe he did that.
I have more masturbation where that came from too.
And I got more, baby. Yeah, I would wish for more adventurers like that in the community. But that's part of what I'm doing with the festival, is encouraging people to move in that direction.
Yeah. Well, for me, my big problem with censorship is tough. For artists, as an artist, being able to express yourself and all your stuff out in a movie is tough. So. Maybe hopefully people keep making stuff and are able to do that. And so Machinima, it kind of seems to me like it should be some future of filming. Like, we could make our own studios and share our own assets and do all that stuff. And
I actually think it's going to be it has a very bright future. For one thing, is even though Machinima.com's content is just bogus, their method for creating it and their delivery system to is huge.
Yeah, they've got it down.
They've got, what, 300 million viewers, 30 million viewers, something like that on YouTube. And with the transition from the television going to your monitor and everything going in the cloud, and also the entertainment that's going to be produced for the iPad and your iPod, they're going to want content like the four of us are creating for this future digital sort of realm. Yeah. And it's not going to be driven by corporations. It's going to be driven by individuals like us.
As long as me and Jimmy Screamerclaws and people like us don't kill ourselves before it gets there, right?
I don't think that's going to happen. You guys are too... All you need is a...
you didn't hear our last show, Ricky.
Yeah.
Oh.
We weren't sure if there was going to be another.
I see. You really got down dark, huh?
You got to do that sometimes.
You do. You got to dig down in the mud to be able to take the shower.
But I'm sure the other dudes feel the same way. But yeah, it would be awesome if you want to do like an acting or anything you want to talk about, maybe once a month or something. If you come back on the show.
Happy to. Sure.
I love talking about that stuff, and I think it's really fascinating, and I'd love to talk to you about it again. And
count on me.
Sweet. So is there any new stuff you're working on you want to let people know about or go check out right now?
No, I'll just send you the Machinima links right now. I was wondering whether Jimmy or James had any questions for me about Machinima or acting or anything like that.
The Machinima, I thought it'd be interesting if you could even take your own characters and somehow get them onto those rigs so you could still do it that way. Because I always think about that, like... when I'm making my movies, if there would just be an easy way to take like a video game controller and do the walk cycles that way, like, I just need him to walk from here to there for this shot. So if I could just do that with a controller,
right?
And then just have all the close-ups, just the regular rendering and rigging and all the regular animation like that. So if you could find a way to combine all that stuff and just like all these different resources from all these different, like you said, there's a huge Blender community that has all sorts of stock stuff too, and there's a huge poser community that has all sorts of stock stuff. So if there was just a way to combine all of these best things from every program and make a film that way, that could cut down a lot of things too.
It sure would. There's also been a lot of experimentation with the Kinect since Microsoft.
I've been doing that.
Yeah, it's a little blunt and blurry, but I think since Microsoft released the SDK for it, there's been a lot of people sharpening it up, and I think you're going to find that games are going to adopt the ability to use motion capture via Kinect. For people when they make a level or they make a game, and they're going to be able to do some of their own motion capture.
Yeah, Jimmy's been getting into that stuff deep. We did a show on motion capture a couple shows back.
Cool.
So he's like our scoop on the motion capture beat.
Yeah.
Is there a entry point into a Machinima that you would recommend, like a game or software that anyone who hasn't really got into Machinima could probably start with?
Well, I think there's a couple things you can do. I think the Unreal development kit from Unreal, the game, is a great place to start because the tools they give you are all free. And if you start with that, you can pretty much be making a game really fast. I'd also recommend there's another tool called MovieZoo. MovieZoo, MUVIZU.com, which is a drop and drag sort of game that allows you to create films. It's run by a bunch of crazy Scotch guys, and they just love it's just goofy stuff. And they need to have a good dose of masturbation to their whole scene.
Hey, James, Jimmy.
Wait.
Yeah,
with Scottish accents, yeah.
Hey, maybe that's something there it goes. If you find something like that, Ricky, maybe, all of us should just run at it and I'll try it out, We'll
sure.
throw us out
like do a film in like a week or two, just throw it all together.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. We should. We should. There's a couple standalone companies that are doing Machinima. iClone, ICLONE is a company that does it. Also another company called Movie Storm. But the problems with those companies is that you have to pay in order to get rolling with their stuff. But it's worth taking a look. I mean, they both have pretty devoted followings and they have interesting films that are made in it. But I would jump at the Unreal development kit and take a look at MovieZoo.
Yeah, maybe we'll check that stuff out, and maybe in a month or two after we've had a time to play with it, we'll have you back on, Ricky, and ask you,
Sure.
We'll throw out what we learned and, what we found out about it and stuff, and yeah.
I'll send you a email with links, Machinima, and then also links to MovieZoo and the Unreal Development Kit.
Okay, awesome. I'll put them in the show notes so anyone listening can go click on those and check those out.
Really cool.
So yeah, if you guys don't have any other questions, it was awesome having you on the show, Ricky. So thanks for being on, and I'm looking forward to having you on in the future.
Thank you, man.
And I want to let everybody know that, yes, Ricky did an awesome job in Heartstring Marionette, my new animated feature film that will be out this year. And, we're all really excited to hear what Endika's going to do. I mean, Ricky got a little sneak preview of the music when he was at the studio.
Woo-wee.
So, hopefully we can get that out sooner or later, and we can talk about that on the podcast too, right?
Yes, indeed.
So it'd be sweet. So, yeah, thanks again, Ricky. And you're always a friend to the Forever Alone Filmmaking Podcast.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
It's good talking to you, Ricky.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on. What a pleasure. I want to be a part of your gang.
Well, you are now. We just jumped you in. There's
I
no way out
want
now.
the secret handshake to get into the treehouse.
We're going to meet at Echo Park later.
We're going to send you the jacket soon.
Okay.
All right,
I do like that idea of a blitzing of Machinima. I think that would be fun.
I mean, we throw us at something or, point us. I mean, I'm down. I'm always down to try new stuff, so.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. I'll be catching you soon.
All right, thanks for being on the show.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, good.
I mean, does it kind of feel that way with you guys? Like, oh yeah, actors. And like, because when I had Ricky come in, I felt like intimidated. He was like a real actor who's done all this shit, and I was like, oh whoa, fuck, I need to be on it. Like, what's he gonna ask me? And hopefully, I know how to talk to him, how you're supposed to, and all that stuff.
Well, my intimidation with actors is more like, I see them as almost like action heroes or superheroes, and where I'm like, punch that, fly through the air, yeah, this is so awesome. And unfortunately, like sometimes I'm not focused enough, or they're like, what kind of superhero am I? I don't know, punch that.
Yeah. So like I'm always, because like we didn't go to film school or whatever, and I guess they teach you stuff like that. So I'm always like, I want to make, like I asked them about doing the homework. That's something that I've always thought. It's like, if they're going to take a chance to jump into your world or your script or whatever, like you better know everything about it, to make them feel like you know what you're talking about. Or else.
Well, M-Dot, what kind of homework did you do for Heartstring Marionette for all the characters that? I
mean, what I do is I write stuff for the script or for the story that's never going to be in the script or story. Mm-hmm. So I'll pretty much write all the relationships with all the characters and their like psychological profile, like why they are the way they are. And this can be a problem because it's good to know it, to work with actors, but then you get so deep into it, you assume it's in the movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's in the lines, and then you have to remember, like, no, this is in my head. This is homework. Like, if I don't put this in the movie, no one's going to know this. But it's just stuff like that. Like,
well, at a certain point, do you ever overdevelop the backstory to the point where when you approach the actor, you can't create a collaboration? More so, you're just pointing at, like, this is what I did. Can you kind of follow that?
Well, because when he came in, he already read the script, and then I was just pretty much like, you have any questions about it? Like, we talked about it. I didn't, like, start out on anything, and then he didn't have any questions. No, he really didn't. We just discussed the part a little bit. Like, he just asked me, like, is he like this with his son, or is he like that? And we talked about it, and then I really didn't push anything out until he asked. So if he asked, then I would...
It's more like in preparation in case they ask, but if they don't ask, it really forcing it on them would be a detriment.
I mean, like Ricky, I didn't have to say anything. He just did a character voice. I had never heard him practice it or whatever, and he just did it. Like, he had it. Like, he was right on. So I was like, whoa, fuck, tight. And then it was just minor technical timing stuff that we worked out. So, I would just say have the ammo, be ready. Because it really is like that thing, like I said, like, it's like a house burning down. And we're telling the actor, okay, just go in there. All right? Like, trust me. If you walk down up the stairs and around the corner and jump out, there's a window there, and you'll be able to jump out, and it'll be open. And,
the way you're describing doing the homework, it's more like treating each actor as if they're their own 2012. You have to make sure you have all the water and all the canned supplies in case, like, the 2012 actually happens.
Yeah, and I think, the bigger a piece they are in the movie, the more they need.
Yeah.
If it's just a little bit part, it's like, well, they don't need that much, but...
They need a can of Spam, but this person needs 10 crates of beans.
Yeah. But it's just I think it's just about that respect thing. Like Ricky said, he worked with directors where they didn't even know what they were doing. So then, if some dude comes on your set and, we're not paying people, we're paying them next to nothing, and it's like, dude, you better know your shit. If he asks you a question, you better know the answer, or at least, and if you say it, you better, like, believe in it.
Well, to talk about actors, and let me know if this is just off topic, or maybe save it for another podcast, but how did you, consider we really don't have any money to pay actors, and we really don't have much to offer other than credit and a copy of the movie, how did you attract actors to your movie?
Well, I can't say I really know how exactly, because...
Well, how did you do it in your case?
Well, this is what I've always believed. It's like, if you're not going to have any money to pay someone, then you have to be just making cool shit that they're into and they want to be a part of. So, I've been putting stuff out for years, and I put it out there, and I was doing stuff without asking anybody anything, and then I built this little body of work. So
you made it, and they came.
Yeah, so I was just like, some of the people... Well, I mean, I asked all the people, obviously, but it had just come to a point that, I met them, like, having, my blog. There's been a bunch of people that have contacted me or whatever through the blog or seeing the past films, and then it's kind of like, if an actor, like, emails you and is like, hey, I love your stuff, and, I thought it was this and that, and then, you kind of get an inkling like, whoa, dude, I can probably work with this guy if I have a new project, so...
In that case, I guess this is a question for
you let your work speak for itself.
Yeah. In that case, I guess this is a question for you and Jimmy. I obviously don't have much on the internet, and I'm sure anyone that's listening wouldn't have a feature film that would attract people, or a blog that would attract people, or maybe they do. But I would like to know, like, what would your advice be to me to find actors, like live people and voices for my own stuff?
You want to answer that first, Jimmy?
Well, I mean, it really depends on, are you looking for a name actor or just any actor in general?
Well, actually, let's say both cases. Let's say I would, what should I do if I was looking for a name actor, and what should I do if I was just looking for someone who would be able to fit the role appropriately?
I mean, if you just want to fit the role appropriately, I mean, just, friends, family, go on casting websites, you can find people there, and just hang out kind of where movie stuff kind of happens, go to screenings for midnight movies or conventions or any of that kind of stuff, where you find movie people who just really want to be in movies or whatever. I mean, as for name actors, It's like, I think if you just work on other people's stuff for a while, you just kind of start meeting other actors and directors, and you just friends of friends, and just kind of go that way, go that route. But I mean, you can always kind of come up with even just a little bit of money, like, just $100 here and there to find somebody to do it,
Oh, trust me, money's not my problem.
Well, I guess I'm the cheapest bastard in the world. Not like I have any money, but I never paid anybody for stuff. But there's one thing I've kind of always believed in. It's like, I think every filmmaker, animator should go read Aleister Crowley's magical theorems, because they're really handy for shit. But there's one that's pretty much like comes down to like it's like, a man who knows where he's going has the momentum of the universe at his back, or people get out of the way of a man who knows where he's going, whatever. And I always felt like, if you believe in your project so much and know so much about it and are just so confident, people will follow you and believe in it and go with you to wherever it goes. So I've always been able to get actors or whatever, even, when I just started out, just by being so fucking psycho into my projects with them all storyboard and all this shit, that they're like, maybe they were probably like, I don't know what the fuck this is, but this guy's like way into it, so shit, I'll do it too. So I think when you're just starting out, as long as you believe in your stuff, if you find other people, wherever that may be, online or offline, that are passionate about movies, like you invited me on a Cinemageddon, and that's like an awesome place for people that love movies. And it's kind of like you just kind of have this rapport where, if you love movies and they love movies and you come to make a movie, they'll want to do their best or be a part of it, just for the sake of movies. It's kind of like what we were saying with Ricky about, giving it up for the work. So if your work, if your film is so cool or so different or so awesome, those people will be willing to dedicate time and energy or whatever to be a part of it, whether it exists yet or not. Because I mean, dude,
what was the Aleister Crowley book
they're free online. It's his magical theorems. It's part of Magic and Theory and Practice, but it's just like one of the chapters.
Oh.
But seriously, I found those like super, super handy for just managing your willpower and doing shit in life and stuff.
And conjuring demons.
You've already contracted
Jimmy,
You weren't here last show. We already decided James will fund our movies.
Yeah. And he just said money's not a problem and laughed hysterically. So fucking bro, come on, man, write me some checks.
No, I already funded movies that don't exist now.
But I would just say like it kind of goes. Like I never tried to get like name actors or whatever. And in Heartstring Marionette, I got some dope actors. But that was after I put out We Are Strange, so they probably have seen like, okay, here's a dude, he's doing stuff, and so once you got a couple things out that you're like, you think you can stand on, like, yeah, this is me, this is James Id, this is who he is, and then you put that out there, then people will,
So in the case of the audience, it would be make your stuff as tight as possible, maybe with your friends, maybe with your family. Then once you have a body of work, it'll be easier to get people that's outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's something I have on my YouTube that's linked off my blog, too. In my old short films, there's one called The Ultimate Sacrifice. And it's this little animated short film where it's like this guy and his girlfriend, and I'm doing all the voices. Like, I couldn't get anybody, so it's just me. Right? And it's like, well, that's the best I can do then. And then later I added, friends and people, and then just, like I did a voice, like Jimmy Screamer Claus did a voice in Heartstring Marionette, I did a voice in his, we kind of trade around, and you try to build up until you get that workout, and then you can start, inviting real, people who do acting and stuff like that. I think.
I agree. Just if you if you just make something short.
Yeah. And I haven't said anything dirty yet, so there's stuff in my asshole. That is all.
Wait, what? I missed that part. I just heard the end. Are you sure you're on the right podcast, my friend? This isn't WebMD.
I am. The Forever Alone podcast is what you do when you're forever alone.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, do the voices. You do I'll do voices for you. Whatever.
He already has my voice.
Yeah. I just need to do the short film.
See, that's what I'm saying. You already had one voice.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I ran into, which is probably not on topic for this this particular podcast, but I've actually gotten a lot better with progressing with my short stuff after I plot plotted out like exactly what I needed to make. Like now I have a list of like characters and how long I'm allotting myself to make characters and make props and find props and
scheduling, eh?
Yeah, I'm actually doing that stuff. And the thing is, I've seen your videos, M. Where you're like, oh, scheduled. You have to do this. You have to make all the paperwork. And I was too belligerent to actually do it. It's like, oh, well, I'll just make the whole thing on the fly, or this is small enough that it doesn't warrant me doing the planning. And the thing is, even with the smallest things, it's much easier to get through it if it's plotted out. In fact, it's almost like you're turning it into a game, where it's like, oh, well, if once I beat this level and beat this boss, then I'll be this far through the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing with small projects, though, can trick you, too. Like, there's shortcuts you can take and things you can do on short ones that won't work when you get on a longer one. So I've been doing that with the dark-sided thing, that I got into bad habits. Because I'm like, oh, it's just a short. I'll just throw files everywhere. Oh, I'll just do this, and I won't plan this. And then, like, now it's, like, fucking me over. I'm like, texture's missing and all this shit. So once you get that good workflow down with however it is, don't ever leave it.
So, do we want to move on to questions?
Oh, you just deserted me. I thought you were my friend.
I don't think we have any questions.
Well,
we did most of them yesterday.
There's at least one question that was on the Tumblr.
Well, you didn't get to answer some of those, James. Do you want to hate on Matthew Barney? You probably like Matthew Barney.
I hate him, and the Crewmeister cycle was boring as shit. Honestly, it's...
but we got to hear your side, because honestly, I was just hating. And I know.
Well, my side is it's not film. It's really not like filming in the way that
it's Bjork's boyfriend.
Huh?
It's Bjork's boyfriend.
Yeah, it's not film. It's Bjork's boyfriend. But no, it's kind of like, how there's paintings where the appreciation of the painting is not the painting itself, but the actions that went into creating the painting.
Bullshit.
Well, there's that kind of art.
Yeah, I
and
know.
The Crewmeister cycle is essentially that. You're watching people do things, and it just so happened to be videoed. But the problem is, well, that's not a... There's no care taken into making the movie. It's just a document that recorded a guy in makeup dancing or running around a fucking building.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Harmony Korine. Like, those are documents, they're not films. They're like, finding people on the street and making actors doing weird things that just so happen videoing it is not a film. It's a document. If you want to make it into a documentary, then it's a movie.
Yeah, but dude, that's exactly it. You've like totally explained my blind hatred. Now I know what to say.
Yeah. Well, it's the equivalent of like Well, the sad thing is, like, even the found footage movies have actual film qualities to them that these documents don't. Like, there's no... These movies that are, like, the Crewmeister cycle and even the Harmony Korine movies are just, actions that are filmed together, and they're just so happen edited almost like it's a reality movie, a reality show.
Yeah, it was. Like, Kids was like a reality show.
Yeah. So it's like, I find it very hard to say that they're actual movies.
Yeah, I find it really lazy art in film. It's like lazy.
Yeah.
Well, see, James, that's why you have all the money. You're the smart guy. Yeah. I was just all rah, rah, rah.
Is that actually what you said? Like,
yeah, dude,
the last podcast must have been unintelligible.
It was. The last hour, me and Jimmy Screamer Claus were just out of control.
Yeah, it was pretty gone.
Suicide pact and crying. We drank beer. We got over it. Yeah, it was crazy. But actually,
suicide pact without me.
We thought you were already gone, bro.
Well, I mean, you're already. We
thought you were dead, bro.
No, I was just enduring alcohol poisoning.
All right, almost. You missed it. Yeah, there actually is a question. There was a question posted on the Tumblr.
Let me go to the...
Posted 1 hour ago. I can read it if you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm fun to read it, and you guys answer this. I'm wondering how you guys deal with the social/personal pressure to go out and socialize all the time, as opposed to staying in and working on your art. I know it's probably healthy to go out and socialize occasionally, but if I stay in at night working on my art for 3 days or more, I start to feel like I'm missing out on all the things normal people do, like meeting women, new people, having good times. I know it's bullshit because when I go out to do this for a few weeks, I feel completely unfulfilled because I'm not working on becoming a super awesome filmmaker artist who will lay the smackdown on M. Screamer, Claus, and James on the world stage. Can you guys relate to this psychological catch-22? And if so, how do I overcome it?
Well, I guess I've been resolving my own issues with this problem. So I'm going to jump into this question first. I feel like when you're doing your film stuff, it's a job. You have to put in the hours in order to actually get anything out of it. And if you're not doing that, you're the equivalent of being unemployed. You're sitting around watching, fucking reality shows and hanging out with your friends and getting, blitzed, and you're not really coming up with anything. You're unemployed from your second job. So if you want to feel like a loser, you'll feel more like a loser if you're going to just sit there and take it that like, oh, well, I'm not going to go into work today and I'm not going to do my film today. You actually, at least in my case, I feel much more fulfilled, going a whole week with, making my movie stuff, and then on the weekend actually treating my weekend as real weekend from my real job and my filmmaking job, where I kind of relax. And if I want to go into my computer and start playing with stuff, there's no obligation to do it because it's my weekend. But Monday through Friday, I'm going to be working on stuff because I know otherwise I'm being a bum, and otherwise I'm not going to catch up with you, M. I'm not going to catch up with you, Screamer Claw. and I'm not going to catch up with most of our listeners. I'm sure we have listeners that have totally surpassed me in workload. And it's so totally surpassed me in, artistic merit. Only because I sat back and played Resident Evil on the 3DS way too long. Did that answer the question, or did I just rant?
Yeah, no, you did. That was a great answer. What about you, Jimmy Screamer Claus? What you have to say to this guy? Who's going to lay the smack down on us? 3 against 1? Says, I don't think so, bro.
He says, I'm not working on becoming a... Oh, wait, no, you're right.
Yeah, he says he should be smacking us down.
He should be, you're right. I need a smack down now and then. But how do I deal with social... I don't really have any social pressure or desire really to go out and make friends or anything. I've always just kind of been a loner. I don't really like people, or... I can't really, if there's more than 5 people in the room, I just kind of anyway. I just feel like going home. So it's not really something I ever had to overcome. But definitely the distractions are definitely overcoming. Like you said, playing video games, James. I definitely sometimes fall into a pattern where I'll just play video games nonstop and not doing anything. So distractions are definitely something I've had to overcome, and I'm just trying to stay focused, especially because now I'm getting older. I have bills to pay, and it's like I can do this to pay the bills, or I can make this movie to hopefully pay the bills.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful for me. So maybe people just need to move out their parents' house, get a job, something. I don't know.
Well, I think sorry to interrupt you, M. But I think it's just as long as you keep your social interactions or your stuff to the weekend and you work Monday through Friday, at least there's a schedule there where you know that Wednesday comes along and you're getting tired working on, so-and-so model, and you're tired of rigging and you're tired of animating, you can still have that headspace that you do in your real job where you go, well, the weekend is coming. Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, I can chill out with my friends. I can go get a drink. I can go, chill. I can play video games. But come Monday, I'm going to be back in the grind. I think the problem is most filmmakers don't treat it like it's a real job. When in actuality, if you want to be a filmmaker, it has to be a real job.
Yeah, I think what this dude's getting at, I can kind of feel for him, is that's what happens before you die inside, and before you give up on everything in the universe except for your films. Because when I was younger, when I was 19, 20, 21, I would feel the same exact thing. I was writing scripts, I was working on live action films, but it's it's Friday night, I should be out at a party or banging some chick or doing this or being somewhere with people. I felt that draw, that pull all the time. And I think it's just that you feel like you're missing out on life, what life supposedly is. And then as you go through life and you get to do all the things you wanted to do with men, women, animals, farm equipment, and like all that stuff that everyone wants to do, you know. Then you're like, yeah, that's okay, I guess. And then if you still work on films, like for me, making films is the fucking coolest thing, the funnest thing, the best thing there is in the whole world. So I could go out and fucking go to the best party ever and eat the best food and do the best hoes and like all this stuff all day and night all over the world, and I would still be I would still be like, yes, I can. I have the golden ticket. And I would still be like, yeah, whatever. I want to go make a movie because that's more fun. So I think it's just about figuring out like what is more fun. And this person says they go do that and they feel unfulfilled, but I'm sure, you know, you just need to know. It's like I would keep going out and doing that shit until I realized that the world sucked. And then I was like, I'm not missing anything. I mean, if you want to party, you can fucking party in any town of the world, like at any point in time. Like, it'd always be there. If you want any of that shit, it's always there. But the opportunity for you to make your films in that time and that passion is extremely limited. And, you know, who knows if you even have the time and the fucking space to do it. I mean, what if you fucking, like, get married or knock some chick up and you have kids and fucking bills and all this shit, and it's like, you're done. So if you have that window, even if it is when you're young and you're like, I need to be out loading on windshields, you know, like, dude, no, stay home and do your 3D. Like, it seems like it fucking sucks now, but you'll be glad later. Because, you know, I was a huge loser when I was that age, and now I'm less of a loser. But I lose in a good way, I think. You know, if you're losing by not going, I hate my life and it's so boring, but you lose in, like, I don't have any money, but I love my films and all that shit, so I think it's just a matter of perspective and something that comes with experience.
I agree with you.
Right? You know, it's something that you have to, like, what is the best feeling you've ever gotten in life? And if it's like, ejaculating, then you're going to be running around trying to be ejaculating on all the shit you can. But seriously, you know, when you're like, you know, as a teenager, it's like, sex is the greatest thing in the world. And it's like, yes, sir, it is when you're 18. And then it's like, you do other shit in the world. And it's like, yeah, dude, you know, maybe some people are, you know, biological organisms that are just supposed to, you know, splurt out liquids every once in a while and be like, ah, this is the best. But I think if you're a creator, you know, like, we're making worlds and we're making people and things. And I think it's like a bigger thing. We can influence people and help people and all this shit. So,
well, I know in my case, when I make stuff, it's really difficult to actually put in the time to work because I make it the equivalent of like giving birth. Like first you have the conception, which is, you know, you come up with the idea. That's the most fun thing to do, you know, because it's essentially, you know, sex. But then you have to conceive. You actually have to like give birth to the thing. And then that's the hardest thing to go through. And of course you don't want to put in the time, but otherwise it's going to die inside of you.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect, like, yeah, that's the thing. It's like coming up with the idea is easy and, like, sexy or whatever, and actually following through with it and putting it out on your own on a Friday night at 2 in the morning is, like, the super not glamorous fucking painful grind thing, but it's necessary.
Yeah. So, like, I guess, at least in my perspective, and if this person has the same perspective where it's just so difficult to actually go through it and avoid all the distractions of social interaction and whatever, that the marrying the actually coming up with the idea with actually finishing something is probably the best feeling I've ever had, bar none.
Right.
I'm sure you would agree, I'm done. I'm sure you would agree, Jimmy.
Yeah, dude. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, like, it's the best thing there is. Like creation. It's like it's like, you know, people say when I have my first child. But we get to have that, like, hell of times, and we don't have to change our diapers. And they, like, you know, could fucking get us free tickets to places and do all this shit. People are just like, you know, I met your child, and I think you're great. And you're like, wow, and your child lives forever.
We have children that actually, you know, do stuff for us, and that doesn't suck money from us after it's done.
Yeah, no, it's the best thing. It's, like, the hardest, because we have to be the mother and the father and the brother and all that stuff. But you just have to do some things and, like, balance them out and be like, what's better, what's the best? And then once you know if filmmaking is the best, then you won't care. You know, it's like I make jokes all the time. It's like, oh, it's Friday night and I'm here, like, you know, painting this texture or something. But it's like, I already know in my life what is the best thing for me, and that I'm doing it at that time, so I don't care. But if you don't know that yet, or if you haven't got that gratification from your films or your work, it's hard to balance it out, you know?
Well, I don't think you don't necessarily have to completely excise everything else from your life.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you know.
Like, I know in my case, with at least this previous week, after I plotted out, you know, I'm going to work on everything, you know, as soon as I got home from work until like 2 o'clock in the morning, and this is what I'm going to work on. I modeled like 20 characters. And next week is going to be animation. Like, actually putting in the time and saying, you know, Monday through Friday at this time, I'm going to be working. I actually got the work done instead of, you know, Wednesday night, it's like, ooh, maybe I want to hang out with, you know, so-and-so because, you know, I'm feeling lonely. Like, if I actually dedicated, you know, that time to working and said, oh, I can hang with so-and-so on Saturday because Saturday is my free day, or Friday, or Sunday since that's my free day. You know, it makes it easier to make this stuff. Like, I feel like, at least in my case, I've never dedicated time to working on this stuff.
I mean, I think that's the key, dude, when you said it. It's a job. And, you know, we treat, like, creation art like, oh, it's like, you know, you're supposed to go into work, and it's like, you're just like, oh, I'll go in whenever and just work for whenever, and I don't know. But if you're like, yeah, I'm going to work, you know, 6 to 9 every night, it's like, there you go. You'll get your paycheck, and your paycheck is your finished work.
No. Did you guys answer the other question from the Tumblr?
Yeah, I think we did do that one.
Oh, damn you guys.
You can answer it, James. Go for it. The perfectionism.
No one wants to hear what I say.
Sure we do.
No, you don't.
Oh.
But no, have you guys been working on anything lately?
Yeah, I've been writing scripts. Like, you know, we're doing the script writing episode. I just finished the new animated feature script, and I'm like 3/4 of the way through my live action horror script, and I'm totally gonna like pitch around and try to sell. And,
you're gonna pitch it around like it's come and see what it slaps against.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
It's like spaghetti. Is it done? And then I'm doing a new dark-sided episode right now about aliens.
You, Jimmy?
I'm just writing right now. I'm writing my next feature and rearranging all my computers, and I'm really looking into buying new hardware and everything like that. Some new computers, selling the old ones. So that's what I've been doing, gathering up some money. Trying to do that, yeah.
I wish I was in computer buying mode. What are you looking at, those 2600s or something like that?
I have one 2700K now, but I don't know if I can afford another one of those. I mean, those are like $300 processors to make up the 324.
Yeah, I don't have any. I just like read about them.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna get rid of my 2 Core 2 quads. Try to sell those for like $100 and something each, just the parts that I have, and either go with a one of those new 8-core bulldozers from AMD or the i5 2500K. They're around the same price point.
Be careful of the law of diminishing returns, Jimmy Screamer Claus. You know that thing where like the more cores you have on one box, like the lower the performance goes down per core? Like if you have like...
Yeah, really?
Yeah, if you have like 2 cores, it's like 190%. If you have 4, it's like 380. And if you have 8, it's like 650. Where if you had 2 quad cores, you'd get more performance. There's some shit like that. You know, you never get like...
What language are you guys talking in?
What are you talking about? The law of diminishing returns, James.
The law of diminishing returns. If you have a 280, it goes to the 500, and then the K is what you need to work on, because the K will stab you in the back.
Stop mocking us and smear thermal paste all over your face right now. I command you.
But you have to get the silver kind because it makes it less hot.
Yeah, what's that thing you're supposed to say, like in The Exorcist? I command you in the name of Moore's Law, or some shit. You know? Yeah. So yeah,
Actually, I was going to ask you some audio questions if you want to segue into that.
Sure.
I was just going to ask you guys basically what programs you guys use, you know, what hardware. If you use, do you like when you record other actors, do you bring your laptop and have external, or do you just use like a mini recorder?
I have a little PreSonus USB pre. It's like this super cheap. It's like $150 like USB audio box. So it's like a breakout box. So I use that, and I'm using Studio One, which was like I used to use Cubase forever, and then the dudes who made this new program, and it's like sweet. And it's for Mac and PC. It's really easy to use, but it's super powerful too, and you can bring video in and score shit and all that. And so I use that box. It's $150, and then you can plug in like an XLR mic or whatever you want. So that's what I do.
So Studio One, that's what you mix all your audio into?
Yeah.
Oh, so you don't do that all in Premiere?
Oh, no way, dude. Premiere's like, I'm like, ugh, because it's not like a real digital audio workstation. So
yeah, I've just been mixing the audio in there, and it's been a mess. So I was always wondering what other program to use.
And the levels fucking peak in there all the time for no reason. Like, nah, it's not a very good audio engine. So I'd definitely, go to a...
So Studio One's the program that you use.
Is it created by PreSonus?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you buy like the PreSonus little box, you'll get like the limited version or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, but no, it's really good, and they update it all the time. And it supports VST plugins, and it brings the video support is sweet, and I recommend that one.
What does the little breakout box do?
It allows you to plug in like a XLR mic, like a condenser mic, like just higher quality microphones that have phantom power. Because like higher quality mics need a power source, so then your audio box has to provide that power. So
well, in my case, I use the what is it called? The Zoom 2, the H2, whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah, the H2.
So what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I have one of those too.
If you think that is enough to kind of work on what I've been...
Yeah, actually, I forgot about that. That's a good thing you mentioned. So there is the Zoom H2. We have the old one. It was like $150, right?
Yeah,
I'm looking at that too.
So the thing that's sweet about that, it's like you can use it with an SD card, like standalone, but if you plug it into a computer with a USB cord, then it acts like an audio interface, and you can record straight in your computer and actually pump your audio out through it too, so it's kind of tight.
I think the H4 also has those inputs with the phantom power.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah. But I don't know if it supports the full phantom power spec. I'll have to ask my friend Stone Arrow because he has one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Zoom little boxes are pretty tight too. So
when you mix it in Studio One, you do the edit in a Premiere, and then you export all the audio to Studio One.
So what I do, like let's just say, because that's what I did for Heartstring Marionette, because I did all the sound design and all the voice shit. But let's say for like Darksided, so I'll go into Premiere when I have the renders, and I'll just bring in just the audio tracks that I use for lip sync. And then I'll just do, I'll edit it using those voice tracks on the audio, and then I'll bounce out the cut video and just a stereo track for the dialogue, and I'll bring it into Studio One, and so I'll have the video cut, and then I'll have the audio, just that, the stereo of the voice, just as a reference, and then I'll re-bring in the audio and put them on their own tracks and like move them there, and then I'll add in the sound design, sound effects, and all that shit, and then, mix it all down to an A for a wave from there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that program out then, because audio's been a kind of a thing.
And it's super sweet because it lets you export stems. So if you're working with someone else, if you have like fucking 50 audio tracks, you can just go export stems, and it'll export every track as its own audio track, like out. And it has a lot of really smart stuff.
And you do 5.1?
I've never done 5.1. I don't know if you.
Oh, you just do right.
Yeah,
I just do regular stereo.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't have the speakers or like all that shit. So.
Yeah, I did my last movie in 5.1, but I might have just screwed it up totally. I don't even know.
Yeah, I noticed that on the DVD, but I didn't have a 5.1 speaker thing.
Yeah, I just mixed it all right in Premiere, and with the speakers and everything, you can drag the knob down. So I don't know if I did it right or not.
Yeah, that's actually one of the funnest parts of making films for me is doing the sound design and the audio shit, because you can really make it come to life with all the ambient sound and just
Yeah.
So I really love doing that. So dude, that'll open a whole new world for you if you start doing it in then like a dedicated app, because you have so much more flexibility.
Yeah, totally.
Trimming stuff, fading things.
Well, I did post work in FL Studio and Audition and stuff, but for the main mixing and everything, I was just all doing it in Premiere.
Yeah, because those, I've never used FL Studio and what was the other one? The Audition or the...
Yeah, the one that comes with Adobe.
Is that 2 tracks or is that a multi-track?
It's got a multi-track.
Okay, and
you can do either.
It used to be called something else, right?
Cool Edit, like way back in the day.
Yeah, those, I don't know what it is, because, like 3D programs have render engines, the audio programs have audio engines, and some are faster and, like, better than others. And, I remember I used that one, and I've never used FL Studio, but the Studio One has a super sweet like audio engine, so it's super fast to like navigate and to bounce shit, and it's just like really, really like nice to use. It's really smooth.
I was just recording straight into Audition too, so maybe I'm gonna give this one a try for sure.
Yeah, and like for $150, about you get an audio like a breakout box, or there's a PreSonus one. There's a couple of them.
I have an M Audio one, M Audio USB controller that has phantom power on it.
Oh, tight. Yeah, that's all you need then.
Yeah. Cool.
Audio is the fun.
Yes. So that was my topic for the week, or for the day.
You have any topics, James?
I gave you all my topics, fool.
You did.
Yeah, I was leading the show for a bit. I felt like that kid that stole his grandmother's car and started hitting other cars. Like I took over the show. I was like, "Hey, what do you think?" You know.
I know, dude. That was kind of crazy. I was like, "What is James doing?"
Beating up my grandmother, which won't buy me fried chicken.
Where is he taking this show?
To the next level.
Yeah,
and
so I guess we're still gonna do the we're still gonna do our script, storyboard, animatic, whatever phase shows. We have to outline those.
Mm-hmm.
But
and I'm actually going to be finishing my short film alongside a trailer to a book. There's this really cool author that I would love everyone to check out, and he has he's been putting out free versions of his books on Kindle lately, so I would look into that. Mm-hmm. His name is Jordan Krall, Krall, and the guy makes really cool books. One of my favorites is called Fistful of Feet, and it's a surreal western about a guy who has a foot fetish and his gun belches bullets.
Is it Fistful of Bizarro? Is that his site?
Yeah, he's a Bizarro author. Bizarro is like this group that kind of make stories that are really unrestrained. It doesn't like there's no taboo that kind of keeps them in place. But one of my favorite books is, like I said, Fistful of Feet. And I'm doing a trailer to one of his newest books, Tentacle Death Trip.
And you're working on that now?
Huh?
You're working on that trailer now?
Yeah, and the book should be coming out soon, but the trailer should be coming out with it very soon.
What are you doing with it, James? Give us some secrets of what you're.
What am I doing in it? Well, what I've been doing is it needed a lot of humanoid characters. And I really never had a good experience with Poser or DMZ or DMK or whatever the fuck it's called. Daz. Yeah. And so I've been using this free program called Make Human. Mm-hmm. And it has a really cool it has really cool ways of adjusting the base mesh, and also it exports a relatively low polygon character. It's about like 9,000 polys. Mm-hmm. And I've been exporting OBJs of those characters, putting them in the Cinema 4D, separating the eyes, the inner mouth, and the skin away from each other, mm-hmm. and then taking the skin and sculpting it and painting it in ZBrush. So, like, all the stuff I couldn't do within Make Human, or all the stuff that I'm trying to do to make the character look more more stylized, I'm doing in ZBrush. So, like, doing their hairdo in ZBrush, giving them crooked teeth in ZBrush.
Yeah.
Giving them goiters in ZBrush.
Yeah, you can think of, like, ZBrush as, like, a mallet. And, like, you can bring in your perfect sculptures and, like, bang them up really easy and, like, throw them around and, like, hit them with the mallet, right? I mean, there is actually a fucking mallet.
Well, actually, I was thinking of ZBrush as, like, my cancer gun from Videodrome. Mm-hmm. So, like, I take these perfect models and I shoot them with cancer so that they blow up and get, like, tumors.
Yeah. Yeah, what does that, too, in the first episode of Darksided, when the woman's on the ground, she's like, "Freak me," and, like, her skin's, like, flipping inside out. Like, I used there's a paint tool in Cinema 4D, and it has, like, a normal option, and it, like, pulls the normals, like, out, and it, like, flips the skin inside out and does some world shit. So that's a good, like, cancer gun in Cinema 4D, using the paint tool in normal mode.
But I've been doing a lot of that. I've been using finding a lot of base meshes online and adjusting them to the point where they really don't recognize the original idea of what those meshes were is totally lost. It's helped with creating a lot of models on the fly. This week will be me rigging all the models and animating them in the trailer, and then the following week would be sound design, making the music, and doing the just final compositing to get the look I want. And in tandem, I'm working on my short film. So like, as a reward to myself, after working on all the stuff for Jordan Crawl's trailer, I then start working on, like, I'm tired of doing these models. Let me do models for my short film. So I've been finishing up the models for that, and I'm going to be rigging those this week as well. So both of those videos should be coming out.
You know who I'm going to ask to be on the show pretty soon that would maybe be helpful? I'm going to actually ask Cactus Dan if he wants to be on the show.
Oh, snap. Well, he's probably going to hate me for abandoning him for Release 13's rigging tools.
Well, I haven't abandoned Cactus Dan. I'm going to ride with the cowboy to the end, unlike you.
Well, at the very least, he got several $100s out.
Yeah, but he's a TD, so he writes his own plugins that he uses for work, and I mean he's like god of rigging. So I figure any questions that we have or any stuff about that, like he's the guy to ask. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get him on pretty soon.
Cool.
Cactus Dan, a cowboy. I met him in real life too in Utah, and he's like, he wore a cowboy hat. He's a real cowboy. Except after I was like, oh man, I should have went and like had a whiskey with Cactus Dan or something, but I was all caught up in the film festival crap. But yeah, because that's still kind of a black art to me, like rigging and binding and all that stuff. And I hope you have fun in that wacky, wonderful world of skinning and rigging and binding, James.
Oh, it's beautiful. My problems with the R13 though is I haven't got I haven't been able to make things kind of constrained to certain joints properly. Like for some reason, if you move I tried binding something to a wrist joint, but it never kind of stuck with the wrist. Mm-hmm. Even though I abandoned Cactus Dan, I still miss him.
You'll come back. You'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you want more control, you'll probably come back to some other tools. Because the 13 rigging tools are awesome for click and go, or not have to really get into it. But for like me, when I heard about it, I was like, oh, fucking awesome, and I went and looked at them. But from having the freedom and control and flexibility from using my own rigs, I was like, oh, I can't go back to that, just for the way I work. But yeah, you'll come to the advanced rigging, binding, skinning side.
I'll don my cowboy hat once again.
But yeah, I figured that'd be a helpful one, because that's still a huge thing. It'd be awesome if you could just take a make human model and take it over to ZBrush and screw it up and then press a button in your program and have it be rigged up and ready to go already. But it's not there yet. There's still some geekery that needs to happen.
Unfortunately.
Yep. So you'll keep us posted on the
Oh, absolutely. And I'm gonna try to kind of hone down how I'm doing this stuff quickly, and probably put up a video of how not necessarily behind the scenes, but more this is my workflow, tell me how it's wrong, and this is how I did it fast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're all going to work different, and I don't think that's the thing, you don't really know how fast you can work or how much you can do until you throw yourself into it. And I think all the time we'll surprise ourselves, get that many shots.
I'd love to put out a video on how I paint stuff, because I really I love the way I give. Yeah, I'm gonna be really egotistical, but I love my grody textures of giving them people really fucked up blotchy skin with veins and shit. Mm-hmm. They all look like giant sausages. Awesome.
They do or they don't?
They do.
Are you using sausage textures?
No.
Are you
no, I'm painting sausages? This shit from scratch. So, and ZBrush is really good at if you use the tools a certain way, they're really good at making very natural textures, the natural humanoid textures very quickly.
Are you painting in symmetry at all, or you just do it all asymmetrical?
I initially paint in symmetry, but for stuff like painting fine hairs,
you come back.
Like hairs on the arm or whatever, I take off symmetry and just do that.
Yeah, that's what I usually do. I lay down the base paint in symmetry and then add the details to make it look unique or whatever. I go asymmetrical.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been playing with the poly paint more too. Yeah.
The problem I have is I don't start with a model from ZBrush. Mm-hmm. So anything that I make in Cinema 4D or coming from Make Human or whatever usually has some difference between the left side and the right side, which will kind of screw up the symmetry. And I tried Smart Resim in ZBrush and stuff like that, but it's never really gotten it just right. So I always have to kind of work asymmetrically at some point.
Where are you making or getting the UVs from?
I'm using this plugin for ZBrush that
UV Master.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was going to say that makes the best UVs, like the ones.
Although I've run into problems where the seams are visible.
Oh, because you know what you got to do for that, right? There's that attract. There's the attract UV seams option in that plugin. Have you tried that?
What?
Yeah. So if you go like here, I'll show you how to do it right now, James. So in the UV Master plugin, it allows you to tell ZBrush where you definitely don't want any UV seams and where you don't mind having the seams. So like.
What?
So like inside of UV Master, like you can just press unwrap, right, and it'll like create UVs.
Yeah.
But if
I thought that was its sole purpose was just hitting unwrap.
No. You can actually tell it where to not put seams and where to put seams. So if you go into the plugin, you go down and you click Enable Control Painting, and then there's a Protect and Attract. So for Protect, you would paint the front of your model or wherever you definitely don't want seams, and then you switch it to Attract and then paint like the back or wherever you don't care having seams, and then you will never have any seams where you paint Protect. So that's how you create like a whole body that'll look like skin, like when you see the super good UVs that modelers make. So you would just paint the whole front or whatever with Protect and then draw a line down the back or whatever with Attract, and then it'll do your whole skin as like a real skin that someone took off.
So I would have to enable control painting and then paint the protect and then
attract and then unwrap.
Okay.
And then that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there a way to also change the background color on that? Because the default black is really apparent when the seams do show.
You mean for the control painting?
No, for some reason
your background?
Whenever I unwrap, the background color, like the color that's not in the UVs, is always black. And the problem is, whenever the seams do show, it's a black seam, so it's very apparent. So if I could just turn that into like a flesh tone color, if it was like I was painting a character, if the seam was going to show up on the back or behind the arm or whatever, wherever I painted a track, it wouldn't be as apparent.
Huh, I guess I'd have to try that to really figure out to see what's going on there. I don't think I've run into that myself.
Well, you're just too awesome, Endor.
I don't know. I just have a lot of computer friends. Well, I just watch all the tutorials and stuff, so when I saw, Z...
Oh, I click on those tutorials, and then I rolled my eyes to the back of my head and go, too long, didn't watch.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the effect, It's like first there were just text tutorials, and it was like, or PDFs, and I was like, okay, but only if there was videos. And then there was videos, and you're like, this is awesome, I just copy people. And then now it's like, this takes too long, I wish I had text again. That's kind of how I feel.
Well, what I do is I rip the video off of YouTube, then I watch it in VLC at 2 times speed.
Oh, I see.
Because, in this futuristic era, I need all the information as fast as possible.
Hey, how about, that's a good idea, when we do that screen capture episode, like the Ask M.Dot episode, I'll like have ZBrush and Cinema 4D and After Effects and Premiere and Studio One and all those programs open, and then you can just ask me shit about any of them, and I'll try to do it like right then. How about that?
Okay, I'll ask you to sculpt a penis.
Okay.
To texture a penis.
Okay.
To make sounds of a flopping penis.
Okay.
To make a score that would suit the penis.
Okay, I can do that. And I don't have real flow, so I don't know about the liquid simulation. So if it can shoot out strings, I can do that fine in 740. That's fine.
Well, that's good, because, like, you know, my CG com has to be chunky.
Yeah, or a little... Did you ever see, speaking of CG com and 3D and art, did you ever see, it was put out in Flash and it was done with Lego characters? It was really old, like, looping animation art piece done by this guy from the Netherlands, and it was called It's Time to Bone. Did you ever see that?
No.
Oh, you have to see that. So there's a song by the Arabian Prince, who was one of the collaborators of NWA way back in the 80s, and he had the song called It's Time to Bone. Or it might have been an NWA song. And then this dude, like a video artist, did this shit, and it's fucking hilarious, because it's like Lego characters. Oh, here it is. It's on Vimeo. Just put It's Time to Bone. And it's like one of the first things from Vimeo. Yeah, It's Time to Bone's Lego. And it's the first Vimeo video. So that's something that really influenced me, because I saw this way back when it was a Flash website, and it's like porn scenes, like common porn scenes, cliche porn scenes redone, but with 3D Lego characters, and there's lots of liquid 3D jizz squirting everywhere. Like there's a scene of a guy doing a head spin, and you will get wet. So it wait, is this it? Oh, it's not the whole thing. Yeah, it should be around there somewhere or something, but it's called It's Time to Bone.
Well, thank you for that informative thing.
Yeah. It's just kind of the history of 3D, and, you know, said something about jizz. So people that are listening can go find that. But I thought it was great. On that note, I'm sitting in front of my computer again. But, yeah, so I think, you know, if we have a regular thing about acting and actors, because, you know, we're all going to be working with actors probably more and more often, so if we cannot, like, jerk them off and make them feel like, you know,
yes,
we've done our best, and, you know, yeah.
Wait, I thought we were supposed to stroke their egos.
I knew you were going to make some kind of segue like that after the last thing we were talking about, but I'm not going to allow you to.
You just
rejected.
So, yeah. Do we have any other topics or questions or anything we need to do with the rest of this episode? My fair forever alone filmmaker gentlemen, friends.
Well, I ask anyone who wants to ask questions to please go to our Tumblr. You know, it's kind of like dead, and people that are posting on there seem very unsure of themselves since it's dead. So it's foreveralonefilmmaking.tumblr.com.
Yeah, and, you know, post a question there and we'll, like, answer it that week, you know, about any of the stuff we're talking about. So, you know, yeah, we like answering questions. And we got some other, like, technical ones, but I guess we have to wait till we're going to do, like, the screencast thing or something. I don't know when that is, so.
Yeah, I have those saved.
But we have lots of guests coming up, like, next weekend. You got somebody, what we might do next weekend, right, Jimmy, or maybe?
I'm not sure if I can do next weekend.
Okay.
Because I'm doing a little mini tour of the East Coast.
Oh, you are? What's going on?
I'm joining the Cut Party Tour circuit for a few dates. I'm playing Philadelphia March 25th at the M Room. March 26th in Wallingford, Connecticut, and March 30th in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. And if you go on my website, screamerclaws.com, there's all flyers for all those sites.
That would be awesome if one of the 10 people who listen to this, like, actually checked it out.
Yeah, somebody can show up to one of these.
Well, Jimmy, we could probably still do the podcast. It's just me and you need to engage in this, like, demonic ritual where I will, you know, I'll be your host body, but you'll have to you'll speak through my mouth, but you'll have to let me speak as well.
Yeah, maybe.
Awesome.
Okay, so, well, yeah, just let me know, because I got a bunch of guests lined up, and I had one person for next weekend, so.
Yeah, you might as well do your guest next weekend, and we can do Victor the weekend after.
Okay. So I guess if we don't have anything else to talk about, do you have anything else to talk about, James?
Objects that go in the anal area?
Oh, no more of that. You did enough of that in that other show. You lost us 20% of our sponsors, and we didn't even have any, so now we're minus 20%. But then we picked up an anal bead sponsor, which was great. But
we lost the adult diaper people?
Yep. So,
But, like, you know, I thought they would have been impressed with how many adult diapers I jammed in my ass.
yeah, I don't know if that's the kind of marketing they want, Guy.
You're not supposed to jam them up there. It's supposed to stop your poop from falling down your pants, James.
Jimmy, I thought you were going to do that thing, right?
Jamming it up there prevented the poop from going down.
No, you were going to have him mark his orifices, right, with a marker, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm gonna fuck. I'll be in Philly. If you live near Philly, just come down with the marker, and I'll fucking set you straight, bro.
Yeah, we can't have this.
You need to draw all over, man.
No, James. No, just in the area around it that says no. There's a Mr. Yuck on it.
All right, so I guess that's a fitting end to the show. So thank you all for listening to episode 8 of the Forever Alone Filmmaking Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Okay, bye.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Forever Alone Filmmaking Podcast. If you have questions or something comments, then please you ask them wherever it's posted. Subscribe to the podcast in iTunes or tell a friend if you have any. If you don't, then whatever, make your movies anyway, motherfucker. It is not easy, but somebody has to do it because Hollywood fucking sucks.
Machine guns for legs, leg gun machine, rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat.